Well, everyone, it's time for us to go ahead and do a comparison between the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 11 Pro Max and see which specific phone is the better one for you. Now, if you want to pick up either one of these phones, the links will be down in the description. You can get them from there. You can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off side by side, you can definitely tell that there are some differences, but also some similarities. The iPhone 11 Pro Max came out back in 2019, and this was the $1,099 phone from Apple at that time. And it was a really good phone. I think it still holds up fairly well. And 6.5-inch Super Retina OLED display on the front. It's a big panel, bigger than the iPhone 14. You still have the notch up top, a little bit of bezel around it, nothing super crazy. But the panel of this thing still holds up very, very well. It's a big size phone, but this was like the most expensive iPhone you could buy back in 2019, just like 3 years ago. Now you could probably buy it for like around $400, probably around that. That seems fair. The iPhone 14, on the other hand, this is a $799 phone right now, and it is a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. Now, a little bit smaller than the iPhone 11 Pro Max, but it's still a really good panel, still 60 hertz, just like this one. The notch is a little bit smaller, and also there's a little bit less bezel around it. But regardless, I mean, it's still a very good looking phone and it's smaller, but some people may actually prefer that when they actually come down to it. So, in terms of the front, I would definitely say the iPhone 14 and 11 Pro Max have some similarities, have some differences. In terms of thinness and thickness between both, they both are kind of different. The iPhone 14 has a flat-sided type of design to it, where the iPhone 11 Pro Max is more curved. So, one doesn't really feel way thicker. I mean, I think the 11 Pro Max is the thicker one, but because the iPhone 14 you're kind of feeling the thickest point at all times. Kind of gives the impression it feels a little thicker. It's not that big of a deal though. The 11 Pro Max also has a SIM card tray built within it. The iPhone 14 does not have a SIM card tray. So that can be kind of a disadvantage for some people. For me personally, I do like having a SIM card tray in my phone, but you still kind of have eSIM here, so it's still totally okay. Now on the back, we have glass backs on both, and we have a little bit of a different camera setup, and this is where things start getting a little fascinating. So the iPhone 14 is the newer phone. We have a wide and ultra-wide camera, where the 11 Pro Max, we have a 3-year-old phone, but we do have that additional telephoto lens on the 11 Pro Max. So 3 cameras here versus 2 cameras here. Kind of weird that still Apple hasn't put 3 cameras on their base models yet, but it's okay. We have glass backs on both too, but 2 different stylings of glass backs. On the 14, we have the standard glass back, which still feels very good, don't get me wrong. It does not feel cheap at all. But the 11 Pro Max were the first iPhones to bring this frosted glass back, and you can tell over the camera it does look overall different. And this is one of my favorite types of backs. It feels very good. This is basically how all the Pro models and the S22s and even like some other iPhones here and there, some other phones, this is how the premium models kind of overextend over their cheaper ones. They put this frosted glass back and it feels very, very good. Now the 11 Pro Max does not have the MagSafe capability here that the 14 has. The 14 also supports 5G, has crash detection and emergency SOS satellite mode. The iPhones both support wireless charging, which is great. The iPhone 14 does support 5G, I think I already said that. And that kind of covers it up on the outside for the most part. Now, in terms of the software and longevity aspect, the iPhone 11 Pro Max, it is a 3-year-old phone as of this point, so you are going to be getting a phone that's already been mature a little bit. Because of this, it's already gotten several different software versions, and it's not going to last as long as the iPhone 14. That should be kind of a given for most people by now. So if you're trying to get a phone that's lasting the longest amount of time, going for the iPhone 14 or other phones like that are probably going to give you the best experience overall. So if you already have an 11 Pro Max, so this phone's still going to be lasting for many, many more years to come. This phone is not going anywhere. But if you want the longest lasting phone, do keep in mind the iPhone 14 or even an iPhone 12 Pro Max or 13 Pro Max. Those iPhones have a higher likelihood of outlasting the 11 Pro Max than this one. So that kind of covers it up there. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both these phones. The iPhone 11 Pro Max has that Apple A13 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone 14 has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM. So let's go and see which one's the faster one between both. Okay, there we go. All the apps are clear on the background, so let us get into it. 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same thing. Music, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we are on offline here, so let's go and hop out of this one. Let's do settings, 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same thing too, not really that big of a difference. Health, 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same thing. Let's go and do podcast, 3, 2, 1. Now we are offline here, but they kind of did have the same type of pop-ups, so that was very interesting. We can try books, 3, 2, 1. And kind of the same exact pop-up. I'm seeing very similar type of app opening speeds. Clock 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same thing. Stocks. Let's skip that. Notes 3, 2, 1. Okay, I think the 11 Pro Max faster there. Reminders 3, 2, 1. So I think the 11 Pro Max was slightly faster there too, just by a little bit. Camera 3, 2, 1. Now I do want to go ahead and showcase one thing real quick. For one, the dark mode, for dark mode taking photos, it did actually come up on the iPhone 14. It did not come up on the 11 Pro Max. That's probably one thing to keep in mind. You can configure it, I think. So I guess you can. I don't even know what's going on there. So let me go and disable it here. Let's go and take a photo. Let's go and open up that photo. Let's see which one's faster. So it was faster overall on the iPhone 14. Photos 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's go and hop out of this one. Let's go and open up some of these other applications that we have on both. Files 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's go and hop out of here. Go get into translate 3, 2, 1. I think the iPhone 14 was faster there. Direct contacts 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same thing. Shortcuts 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's go and hop out of here. Let's try some of these other ones in this application. Voice memos 3, 2, 1. 14 was faster. Calculator 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we're seeing a really good, I think overall, we're seeing some consistency here. I was going to click it on both, but I kind of messed that one up. We're seeing some consistency here. I think the iPhone 14 is consistently the faster one when it kind of comes down to it. And so far, that's kind of something you want to see. When it comes down to it, if you're wanting the faster phone for sure, I think the iPhone 14 is going to be faster and smoother. And you can even kind of see scrolling through here, you're seeing an overall faster phone, I think, but the 11 Pro Max is still keeping up very, very well. And I think for its age, the iPhone 14, for the 11 Pro Max is still doing really good, but I think the iPhone 14 is the faster one when it comes down to it. So that covers it up here. Now, in terms of the cameras department, I think this is where things are also very interesting. So like I mentioned earlier, dual camera setup on the iPhone 14, triple camera setup on the iPhone 11 Pro Max, 4K at 60 on the front and the back of both these. Now with the 11 Pro Max, I think this camera, honestly, it still kind of keeps up fairly well. This is a 3-year-old camera as of this point, and this was the first time Apple put both the telephoto and ultra-wide cameras on their specific phone. And that was something I was really happy about. Having that ultra-wide lens of zooming out and just taking a photo or whatever is really cool, and it's super, super powerful. You still have things like portrait mode, you have standard video mode, but compared to the iPhone 14, you are missing out on some key features here and there. But I do want to reiterate, this is still a pretty good camera when it comes down to it. Now, with the iPhone 14, this specific camera, I think, is still a pretty good camera for sure. It's not a bad camera by any means, but with this one, you are missing that telephoto lens, but that's about it. Other than that, you're getting a more superior lens. The quality of these cameras look much better, in my opinion. I feel like they just look so much more sharper, and they just give much better photos. And even some other phones that I've tested against, like the Galaxy S22 and the Pixel 6, now we still have portrait mode, but we now have this new video mode, which is action mode, so it makes a little bit more of a stabilized video. But we also have cinematic mode, which gives us a little bit more, portrait mode type of esque video with blurred out background on something like your iPhone. So that is another really big asset for this type of phone. But I will tell you, I think the 11 Pro Max still is a very good camera for its price and for its age, but the iPhone 14 is probably the better one, but the 14 Pro Max is definitely the best one when it comes down to it. So to kind of sum up this whole entire video, what I'll tell you is I think the iPhone 14 is overall the better phone. That's kind of a given. That's kind of what we expect. It's better display, kind of. It's better performance. It's going to last longer, better battery life probably. Pretty much everything is better on this phone. But the 11 Pro Max, it is a cheaper phone than the iPhone 14 you can buy now, but you're not missing out on that much. You're getting a bigger display. You're getting still a really big size battery on this phone. You're getting a more interesting camera with a telephoto lens, which is really cool. You're getting better build quality too, which is really cool. And you're still getting a very fast phone that's still going to be lasting for many more years. So you don't really have to go from an 11 Pro Max to a 14, and you don't have to go from an 11 Pro Max to a 14 Pro Max. You can go, if you have an iPhone 8 or something, you can go to an iPhone 11 series and still have a really good phone. So I think the iPhone 11 series as a whole stacks up fairly well against the iPhone 14s. And although these phones don't have all the features the 14s have, for the price tag of these phones, I think they've held up extremely well. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.